Imagine working day and night for something, pouring your heart into it, and still failing. You feel broken, rejected, and ready to quit. But what if I told you that very failure could be the secret ingredient to your success? That what feels like an ending is actually a beginning? Failure, a word that most of us fear. It feels heavy, painful, and sometimes even humiliating. But what if I told you that failure is not the enemy you think it is? What if failure is actually one of the greatest teachers you will ever have in life? See, the problem is not that we fail. The real problem is that we see failure as the end of the road instead of seeing it as a classroom. Every failure carries a lesson, a hidden message, and a chance to grow stronger than before. Think about it. When you were a child learning how to walk, how many times did you fall? Dozens, maybe hundreds? Did anyone tell you you're not cut out for walking, just give up? Of course not. You fell, you got up, you tried again, and each fall taught your body something new. That's how you eventually learned to walk. Failure was your teacher even before you realized it. So why, as adults, do we suddenly believe that falling means we're not capable? Why do we treat failure as a dead end instead of a stepping stone? Failure is not there to destroy you. It's there to shape you. Every time you fail, you get feedback about what doesn't work. And that feedback is priceless. Think about Thomas Edison. The man who gave the world the electric light bulb didn't succeed on his first attempt. He didn't even succeed after 10 or 100 attempts. He failed thousands of times. But instead of calling it failure, Edison said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." That's the mindset of someone who sees failure as a teacher. Every setback was a lesson, every mistake a guidepost pointing him closer to success. Failure teaches you things that success never can. Success makes you feel comfortable, but failure forces you to grow. Success may give you confidence, but failure gives you wisdom. Success can make you proud, but failure makes you humble. It strips away your illusions and shows you the raw truth about yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your limits, and your possibilities. When you fail, you learn what really matters, who truly supports you, and how badly you want the goal you're chasing. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look closely at the stories of the most successful people in history, you'll notice something they all have in common. Failure wasn't just part of their journey, it was their teacher. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job as a television reporter and told she was unfit for TV. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Each one of them could have taken that failure as the final word. They could have quit. But instead, they listened to what failure had to teach them. They improved, they grew. They came back stronger, and that's why today the world celebrates their names. But here's where most of us struggle. We let failure define us. We fail once, twice, maybe 3 times, and we convince ourselves that we're not good enough. That's when we quit, not realizing that every failure was a step closer to success. Imagine if a baby fell a few times and decided, walking isn't for me. Absurd, right? Yet as adults, that's exactly what we do. We stumble once and think, maybe this dream isn't for me. Failure is not telling you to quit, it's telling you to adjust, to learn, to grow. What failure really teaches you is resilience. It teaches you that your dreams are worth fighting for. It pushes you to dig deeper, to find the strength you didn't know you had. And that strength becomes the foundation of your success. You see, life doesn't reward perfection. Life rewards persistence. And persistence is built through failure. Every time you fail, you're building the mental toughness that success demands. Let me share this with you. Failure has a strange way of preparing you for opportunities that you can't even see yet. Sometimes the lessons you learn in failure today are the exact skills you will need for your big breakthrough tomorrow. Failure is like life's secret training ground. It equips you, sharpens you, and readies you for the moment when success finally arrives. So the next time you fail, don't ask yourself, why me? Instead ask, what is this teaching me? Because the lesson you take from that moment could be the very thing that changes your entire future. Failure is not final. It's not the end. It's simply the teacher guiding you toward the version of yourself that is ready to succeed. Perfection, it's something we've been taught to chase since childhood. Get perfect grades, have the perfect career, build the perfect life. But here's the truth: perfection is an illusion. No matter how hard you try, you will never reach a point where everything is flawless, where every step is smooth, where every plan works out exactly as you imagined. And yet, many of us hold ourselves back, waiting until everything feels perfect before we take the leap. But while we wait for perfection, life passes us by. What we really need isn't perfection, what we need is resilience. Resilience is the ability to keep moving forward, even when nothing goes as planned. It's the strength to rise after falling, the courage to continue when things look impossible, and the determination to try again even when you failed 100 times before. Unlike perfection, resilience doesn't demand that you get everything right. It only asks one thing of you: don't quit. Think about it. Every great invention, every great story, every breakthrough in history wasn't born out of perfection. It was born out of trial, error, mistakes, and persistence. Look at the world of sports. Michael Jordan, often called the greatest basketball player of all time, missed over 9,000 shots in his career. He lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, he was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. If perfection was the key, he would have been a failure, but it wasn't perfection that made him legendary. It was resilience. The willingness to keep playing, keep practicing, keep showing up no matter how many times he failed. And this applies to every area of life. In business, in relationships, in personal growth, perfection is not what makes you successful. It's resilience. The ability to stay standing after being knocked down. The truth is, perfection is a lie that holds people back. It convinces you that you're not ready yet, that you need more time, more skills, more preparation before you can take action. And so you wait. You wait until the timing feels right. You wait until you think you're flawless. But the right time never comes because perfection doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the resilient person, the one who takes action even when it's messy, even when it's imperfect, is the one who grows, learns, and eventually wins. Perfection is fragile. The moment something goes wrong, perfection crumbles. But resilience is unbreakable. Resilience bends, it adapts, it absorbs the hit and keeps moving. That's why resilient people thrive in the real world. Life is unpredictable, plans fall apart, obstacles appear out of nowhere. If you're chasing perfection, you'll always be disappointed. But if you build resilience, no setback can stop you. Here's the secret most people don't realize. Resilience turns failure into fuel. When a resilient person fails, they don't see it as the end. They see it as a lesson, a challenge, a stepping stone. They bounce back stronger, wiser, and more determined. That's why resilience matters more than perfection, because resilience transforms your mistakes into momentum. Let's take an example outside of sports. Look at J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. Before becoming one of the most successful writers in history, she faced rejection after rejection. 12 publishers turned her down. She was a single mother, struggling financially, on the edge of giving up. If she had been chasing perfection, she might have thought, "My writing isn't good enough. Maybe I should stop." But resilience kept her going. She kept submitting her manuscript until one publisher finally said yes, and the rest is history. Resilience doesn't care how many times you fall. It only cares that you get back up. That's why perfection is overrated. Perfection says, don't make mistakes. Resilience says, make as many as you need, just don't stop moving. Perfection wants a smooth road. Resilience knows the road will be rough, but walks it anyway. And here's what makes resilience so powerful: it builds character. It toughens you, not just for the challenge in front of you, but for every challenge that will come after. Resilient people develop patience, they learn discipline, they gain courage. They stop fearing failure because they know they can survive it. And when you stop fearing failure, you become unstoppable. So the next time you find yourself hesitating because things aren't perfect, remind yourself, perfection won't carry you to the finish line. Resilience will. Every success story you admire, every name that inspires you, every legend who changed the world has one thing in common: they were once failures. Not just small mistakes, but painful, heartbreaking, world-crashing failures. And yet, without those failures, their success stories wouldn't exist. Failure isn't just part of the story, it is the very thing that shapes it. We often look at successful people and imagine that their journeys were smooth, that they had the talent, the resources, or the luck to get everything right on the first try. But that's a lie success tells us. The truth is, every great achievement you see today is built on a foundation of setbacks. Those failures were not detours. They were the path itself. Take Steve Jobs, for example. The man who co-founded Apple, the company that gave us the iPhone, the iPad, and changed technology forever, was once fired from his own company. Imagine that. The very company he built from scratch told him he wasn't good enough to lead. Most people would have given up, disappeared into the background, and lived with the bitterness of rejection. But Jobs didn't let failure define him. That painful chapter shaped him. It pushed him to grow, to innovate, to return stronger. And when he came back to Apple years later, he turned it into one of the most successful companies in the world. Without that failure, there would be no Apple story as we know it today. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Today, she's one of the most influential women in the world, but her journey didn't begin with success. Early in her career, she was fired from her job as a television reporter. She was told she wasn't fit for TV. Imagine hearing that, being told that your dream, your passion, isn't for you. But Oprah turned that failure into fuel. She didn't accept it as her ending. Instead, she carved her own path, launched her own show, and became a global icon. Her failure wasn't the final word. It was the turning point that shaped her into who she is. Even in sports, the pattern repeats. Michael Jordan, often considered the greatest basketball player in history, didn't make his high school varsity basketball team. For a teenager, that kind of rejection feels like the end of the world. But Jordan didn't quit. He used that moment as motivation to train harder, push further, and become unstoppable. That failure was the spark that ignited his fire, and without it, his legendary career may never have happened. Failure doesn't just shape success stories on a personal level. It shapes entire movements, industries, and breakthroughs. Think about Thomas Edison. If he had stopped after 100 failed experiments, we might still be living in darkness. But his countless failures led to one of the most transformative inventions in human history. Each failed attempt was not wasted. It was shaping the success that would one day light the world. Failure has this unique power. It strips away illusions. It forces you to see what you're truly made of. And it gives your story something that perfection never can: authenticity. Nobody is inspired by a story where everything went right from the beginning. We're inspired by the person who stumbled, who fell, who doubted themselves, but still found the courage to rise. That's why failure shapes success stories, because it's the struggle, the pain, and the comeback that makes the story worth telling. And if you look closely, you'll notice something else. Failure doesn't just shape the outcome, it shapes the person. Success achieved without struggle feels shallow, but success born out of failure feels earned. It carries weight, it carries meaning, and it carries inspiration. That's why the stories we remember are never about perfection. They're about resilience, persistence, and the relentless drive to keep going in the face of defeat. Your failures are writing your story right now. Every time you fall, every time you're rejected, every time something doesn't work out, it's adding another layer to the journey you'll one day look back on. One day, when you succeed, it won't just be about the victory. It will be about the road you took to get there, the struggles, the nights you wanted to quit, the times you thought it was over, but kept going anyway. That's the part people will connect to, because that's what makes your success real. The world doesn't need another perfect story. It needs real ones, stories shaped by failure. Stories that remind us that setbacks are not the end, but the beginning of something greater. Failure doesn't erase your chance at success, it creates it. So what does all of this mean? It means failure is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. It means perfection is not the goal, resilience is. And it means that behind every success story you admire is a history of mistakes, setbacks, and struggles that shaped the victory you see today. The truth is, failure doesn't define you, how you respond to it does. You can let it break you, or you can let it build you. You can see it as the end, or you can see it as the beginning. Every time you fall, every time you stumble, every time life pushes you down, you have a choice. You can quit, or you can rise. And if you rise, if you refuse to stay down, if you embrace the lessons hidden inside your failures, you'll discover something powerful. You'll realize that failure was never there to stop you, it was there to prepare you, to sharpen you, to shape you into the person capable of achieving the success you've been chasing all along. So the next time you fail, don't hide from it. Don't run from it. Look it in the eye and say, "Thank you for the lesson. I'm not done yet." Because your story is still being written, and failure is simply the chapter that makes your ending unforgettable.